Hi, my name is Lavanya and welcome to my channel The Vulcan Talks. I've read that in a dark and gloomy forest of philosophy, when Vedantic lion roars, all jackals run for their lives. Well, I am here to talk about one such lion today, Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Sri Adi Shankaracharya was undoubtedly one of the greatest saintly philosophers that India has produced. He was a sage, he was a philosopher, he was a mystic, he was a savant. And yet, his mention in our history textbooks is merely a passing reference and nothing more. So, it's my humble attempt to share some insights about this phenomenal, radical, religious reformer of Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism. There are series of literature created on account of Sri Adi Shankaracharya's life. There are 10 known biographies by different scholars, and it's important to note that according to one of the biographies, Shankara Digvijaya, there are 3 details which are quite controversial in all the biographies. His year of birth, what institutions were actually founded by him, and the place he passed on. Although there's a great deal of ambiguity regarding his year of birth, with all the available evidence put together, it can be said that he was born sometime between 5th century and 7th century AD. By contrast, his place of birth is an undisputed fact. It's agreeable by all the scholars. He was born in a beautiful place called as Kaladi in Kerala, the southernmost part of India. His parents were Aryamba and Shivaguru. As a toddler, Shankara showed such extraordinary skills that people around him were convinced that this was no ordinary child. Unfortunately, he lost his father when he was just 3 years old. And despite this great grief, his mother Aryamba took over all the household responsibilities. She diligently conducted Upanayana for young Shankara. Upanayana or Janev or Yagnopaveed is a sacred thread ceremony. In a way, you can call it as an eligibility criteria for a child to enter a Vedic school at that point in time. And as a student, Shankara, with the extraordinary skills that he has, he mastered Vedas and Shastras. Even his teachers were astonished at his brilliance. And he had such great memory power. He grasped everything by merely listening to it just once. And he never forgot what he had grasped. Let me tell you one fascinating example from his later life. Padmapada is one of his disciples. Once his house was caught on fire, and because of which he lost all his commentary, his work, his literature. But to his luck, he had read out 5 chapters of that commentary to Shankaracharya when his work was in progress. So Sri Adi Shankaracharya, he dictates it to him and he writes down those 5 chapters. And these 5 chapters of Padmapada is now called as Panchapadika. Although it's an incomplete work, it's still there. Let's get back to his childhood. As a young boy, Sri Shankaracharya wanted to spread Sanatana Dharma, and chasing his dream, he took to the life of sannyasin at a very young age of 8. He went on to become a disciple of Sri Govindapada. Sri Govindapada is a disciple of Sri Gaudapada. Gaudapada was a disciple of Shuka, son of Vedavyasa, organizer of our 4 Vedas. Sri Govindapada took young Shankara under his wings. He taught him the divine knowledge of Brahman through 4 Mahakavyas or 4 great statements. Prajnana Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, Tat Tattvamasi and Ayamatma Brahma. He also taught him Vedanta Sutras or aphorisms, which forms a core essence of Vedantic philosophy. Soon after he became proficient in all Vedic scriptures, his master advised him to go to Varanasi and restore Vedic spirit through his preachings and also to write commentary on Vedanta. It's important to note that at that time, Vedic Dharma was in a great decline because people were practicing many fragmented beliefs and faiths, and there was a fundamental tension between a ritual bound householder and ritual rejecting sage or a hermit or a sannyasin. And also there was a misinterpretation of true Vedas by these scholars. Sri Shankaracharya takes his master's advice and sets out on a spiritual mission. Not just Varanasi, he travels lengths and breadths of the land on foot. During his time in Varanasi, there are many people who are deeply inspired by his preachings, and they go on to become his disciples. There's one incident that happens in this place which changes his perspective altogether. The story goes like this. He and his disciples encounter a man who's regarded to be from the lowest rungs of the society. He was asked to move aside, and the man retorts with a question. He says, "O learned sir, to whom was this question addressed to? Me or my soul? Form or the formless? Limited or limitless?" This incident had an astounding impact on Sri Shankaracharya. He is now able to see beyond the divisions that is created by Dvaita or dualistic philosophy, and he affirms Advaita Vedanta, which is non-dualistic school of thought. Now that he has had a real understanding of the purpose of the Vedas, he travels to Badrinath, where he writes a profound commentary on the Vedanta Sutras of Badrayana and also commentaries on Upanishads. Since I'm talking about Upanishads, let me give you very basic information about Vedas with little knowledge that I have. Vedas is a humongous corpus. When was it originated? No one knows it. You know, Swami Vivekananda puts it very beautifully. He implies Vedas like gravitation. It's always there. It's eternal. Someone just had to discover it. Moving on, we have 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda, as organized by Brahmarshi Vedavyas. And all 4 Vedas are further divided into 4 subsets. So 4 times 4, 16. That's Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishads. And since Upanishads is the last part of Vedas, it can also be termed as Vedanta. Anta means final or last. So Veda plus Anta is Vedanta. We really do not know how many Upanishads we have. The traditional count is 108, and there's definitely more. And the commentaries which Sri Adi Shankaracharya wrote on 10 Upanishads are called as principal Upanishads or Dashopanishads. Dasha means 10. Let me give you an idea of a commentary on the Upanishads. Mandukya Upanishad, which is one of the principal Upanishads, it just has 12 mantras. And Sri Gaudapada, Sri Adi Shankaracharya's guru's guru, has written 300 verses just to explain those 12 mantras. And Sri Adi Shankaracharya goes on to write another commentary to further simplify it. So you can get an idea of how deep the Vedanta philosophy is. Another significant incident in his spiritual conquest is the great debate with this couple Mandana Mishra and Bharti Devi, who are ardent believers and great scholars of Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is the Vedic worldview which favors ritual-bound householder. He defeats them in the debate, and in fact, Mandana Mishra goes on to become his disciple. And there's another debate with Bhatta Bhaskara where he wins there too. Amidst all this, he hears the news of his mother's death, and as promised, he goes back to Kaladi to perform last rites. When he needed help, it's said that he hardly got any help, probably he got no help at all. So this is when Sri Adi Shankaracharya made a bold move, like a defiant revolutionary. So he set up a funeral pyre right at the gate of the house and he performed cremation. And legend has it that furious Sri Adi Shankaracharya, he curses the people of that place to cremate their dead bodies in the compounds. And in fact, he asks the king of that place at that time to enforce this rule on the people of that place. Well, I'm really not sure if this old tradition still continues in the Brahmin families. After completing the last rituals, he continues on his mission. He goes to Kashmir, which was then called as Fountain of Knowledge. There, he defeats many distinguished scholars who follow various philosophies such as Samkhya and Nyaya and even Jainism. And he also beat followers of Acharya Kanad. Here's an interesting fact. Acharya Kanad is called as father of atomic theory, approximately 2500 years before John Dalton. Many people do not know this. Anyway, after the spectacular triumph, he goes to Badrinath, where he continues his preaching for quite some time. And he also instructs his disciples to establish 4 monasteries in 4 corners of Bharat. One is in Dwarka Peeth, which is in Dwarka, Gujarat, and Govardhan Peeth, which is in Puri, Odisha, Jyotirmath, which is in Badrinath, Uttarakhand, and Sri Sharada Peetham in Sringeri, Karnataka. Well, now Sri Adi Shankaracharya sets out on his last physical journey to Kedarnath, and he gives up his body at the age of 32. Advaita Vedanta thrives even today and will forever do through great people such as Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramana Maharshi, Swami Vivekananda and Houston Smith. I would like to end this talk with a mantra. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. It simply means world is unreal. Brahman is the only truth, and there is no difference between Brahman, the God, and Atman, the individual self. Well, on that note, we come to an end of another segment. It's very difficult to talk about such great personalities in short time, but I've done my best. I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, please do not forget to hit that like button. Please share and subscribe to my channel. Please do take care of yourselves. Namaste.